Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Eric Jorn, a partner here at the firm. What's shaking, Eric?
Oh, bacon. Bacon is what's shaking.
Bacon is shaking. I got a question for you about business.
Let's hear it.
Is it scalable?
Is business scalable? Wow. That's a big question.
It is. It's got to be, but it's got to be scalable, right? Or is it, actually, I want to backtrack that. Is every business scalable?
That's a much better question. Is every business scalable? I'd say the answer is no.
Well, according to EOS, they all have a cap, right? They're all going to reach their maximum potential.
They'll all reach their maximum potential. And then really depending on, let's just get it out of the way, right? If I'm the only person who knows how to execute my product or service, that business is not scalable. So if that one skill set is unique to you, you do not have a scalable business.
I want you to go into depth on this because I think I'm missing something with it. What do you mean it's not scalable if you're the only person doing it?
Yeah, definitely. So if you have a skill set and there's not other people in the world, say nobody else in the world has that skill set, you only have as a person have so much time in a day to execute. Right? Eventually you're going to hit capacity, and without being able to continue to grow, you don't scale.
Okay. So scaling and growth are hand in hand.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's get right into this scalable business model. How do you execute that?
Yeah. So scalable business models, let's talk about what a scalable business model is not. It's not we'll work with anyone in any way, custom built solutions for everyone. So who usually falls into a difficult trap of scale? Consultants.
Okay.
So scaling requires repeatability. It requires systems, processes to execute. So you can leverage systems and processes instead of somebody's expertise and time. When you start just relying purely on somebody's expertise and time, there's only so much that can get executed within a day. When you start building procedures or processes, you can start scaling by adding layers of people who can do various steps to maximize the availability of people who have the most unique skill sets within that organization, or who can deliver and execute that process or product.
So correct me if I'm wrong. When we're talking about scalability, in many ways, you're thinking it's a process that can be easily repeated, would be scalable.
Absolutely.
Right? But anything that has to be done very specific. Let's say I make custom windows and you got to measure every one of them. They have to be done very specific way. Not scalable at all.
Yeah. So that business becomes a lot more throttled by the fact that it takes a lot of manual work and specialized work to go execute it. Whereas say you're installing windows or standard size windows to new construction homes. Now all of a sudden you get set of blueprints. Blueprints are probably drawn to have standard windows. So you're essentially just creating a machine where you're putting windows into these houses.
So if it's, again, standard size, not custom, it's kind of, you're almost doing the same thing every day.
Exactly.
That's scalable.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Is there
It's more scalable.
What? Okay. That's key. More scalable.
Yep.
What else is more scalable?
What else is more scalable? So anytime you can provide a similar product to your customer base, right? So we'll look at an accountant.
Sure.
Right. So
I'm looking at one right now, actually.
We see accountants and accounting firms fail to scale because they will provide any service to anyone. So that's a good place to start. Okay. Right. So somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I need help with this." And they say, "Sure, we can do that because I'm billing hourly and just pay me for my time." Or maybe you have the CPA, the owner CPA, and they're, because of the nature of the relationship they have with their client, maybe they're doing the bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
They're also billing out that client.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're doing the tax work and the planning and everything. They're doing it all themselves. Well, eventually they're going to hit capacity,
Right.
no longer able to scale.
Mm-hmm.
So there's repeatable processes that can be followed if that's one of the big drivers to scale. And then having a tight menu of offering. Those are two very important components to scale.
You want to explain those a little bit?
Yeah. Yep. So let's talk about a tight menu. So let's look at the most successful restaurant franchises.
Okay.
That have scaled,
Mm-hmm.
right? Look at McDonald's. McDonald's grew based on a very simplified menu. Now, as they developed some major infrastructure, and we'll talk about infrastructure as well, they've been able to expand their offerings.
Mm-hmm.
However, to scale, the original scaling was based off a very simplified menu. Five Guys burgers and fries, similar thing, right? I think they have cheeseburgers, hot dogs, and fries. Mm-hmm. And that's about their entire menu. But they've been able to scale because it's a very, very simple, very condensed operation. Now you go to, the diner, the local
Mm-hmm.
diner in town that's got a dictionary-sized menu. Well, that's not a scalable business model because you have to teach all these recipes, carry all these ingredients across all these various different restaurants. It gets very complex early on to add location number 2, location number 3, chef 1, chef 2, etc.
Because basically what you're saying is complexity is in a way slowing things down.
Correct. Complexity is a huge throttle to scale.
Interesting. Okay. I want to backtrack a little bit because you've brought up capacity a lot already in the few minutes we've talked. What are ways to address that capacity?
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously we're not creating more time in the world.
Well,
so much.
And this is a great question because one issue that business owners often run into is as soon as they hit the first capacity restriction, they say, I need to hire somebody else.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes another person doesn't fix their capacity issue. What it does is it compounds it because maybe they have poor processes and procedures. Things aren't streamlined enough. Mm-hmm. That's where you got to look at benchmarking, right? Does that person who's producing whatever product I produce, they're making the widgets. Mm-hmm. Are they driving the correct amount of widgets for that person? Mm-hmm. Do I have a goal? Do I have a set barometer? How long does that new employee take to ramp up to get to that set amount? If I have none of those in place, it's going to be very difficult to get that employee then to scale to their optimum output level. So, and then at that point in time, you might have a very dormant employee, or you might mistime the hire for that employee when in reality, you need to refine your processes.
Well, and then just a quick thought. If you're going from that one employee to 2, well, then the owner, right, mm-hmm. still has to take time to manage that person. All of a sudden you have
Correct.
HR role that you're adding.
Yep.
So are you even really saving time in the end?
Yeah. Original first few hires probably aren't going to, they're probably going to actually maybe take additional time from you.
Okay. So what else is really affecting this scalability?
Yeah. So scalability. So infrastructure. Let's talk about infrastructure because that's really important. So business owners in their business life cycle, they're in the startup phase. Maybe they've added those 2 employees, mm-hmm. but they're still wearing your HR hat, your accounting hat and finance hat, your operations management hat, your sales and finance hat. Well, that's really going to restrict you from doing well in any of those functions, but also to add scale to teach and mentor the next person within your team.
Okay.
So by creating infrastructure means do I bring on team members to handle some of these major core functions that I just described, and a lot of them around finance, HR, and sales and marketing, right? Those are really kind of those big, and IT, information technology, I'd probably say is the 4th one. So you really need to have running functions that operate as a separate department.
And really so what I'm understanding from this is kind of having those set procedures, having materials in place. So when they are onboarded, they're all going through the same processes and then refining them, because obviously there may be a glitch in the system and you have an opportunity to correct that.
Well, just think about the cycle that you need to go through to hire somebody, right? You need to post an ad. You need to go probably do some outreach in today's market, right? It's not like you post an ad and you just have unlimited people applying. It's not like that anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So you probably have to do some outbound, some talking to people to get a good candidate in the door. Mm-hmm. You got to go through your interview process. You have to do background checks and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. Then you have to onboard them, right? And that you have like the general onboarding to make them a good employee. And then you also have onboarding of their role. So do you have a training manual? Do you have processes in place? What does the first 2 weeks look like for them? There's so many moving pieces. And when you think about that step, if like, hey, I'm going to scale this business, like the floodgates are about to open. I need to hire 5 people. All of a sudden, that sounds really daunting to execute all those steps. And
not only to execute that, to execute it and execute it successfully, right?
Correct.
Because bringing in that amount of people, having them trained and all being able to perform is that's difficult. Okay. Is there anything else for scalability? Because there's one more key question I want to ask then.
Yeah. So again, right. So we're providing a tight menu of services. Mm-hmm. We built infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And we have good processes and procedures in place, right? We're going to do things the same way every time.
Okay.
And that's probably our key 3 components to
like if you
building
had to say
a scalable
definitely those 3 are the main
model.
Contributors.
Exactly.
Okay. Now I want to ask, if you attain this significant growth, how do you control it?
Yeah.
And we don't need a long answer. Let's say you're scalable. You've pulled these off. What do you do when, again, those floodgates open? Yeah. And then you got to hire those 5 people.
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of things. I mean, the number one thing you need to do is stick to your core, right? That is not the time to get distracted and try to
don't start changing everything.
Don't change things, right? Can we really just dial in what we have on the team? Obviously, if you need to start bringing in a lot of people and right now, it's time to stop, sit down, and make a plan. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. At what point in time do I hire employee A, B, C, D? How fast can I onboard these while providing a good experience? How fast or how much capacity does my current production team have to handle all these clients? Et cetera, right? Planning really will help you handle something like that. So as soon as you catch wind that you got a large opportunity, right? It's a good idea to start thinking about it and planning
to have a plan
well ahead before it comes in the door.
Of course, you're blindsided sometimes, right? It's the nature of business. But essentially, when this significant growth happens, create a plan, have something at least in place.
Yep. Perfect. And look at what duties do I have that can most easily be delegated or outsourced to somebody else.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add, Eric? Because that was really good.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.